This is my friend Hopi, and she's going to join us. Hi, kids! Hopi's going to stay at my house until we all come back to Bible Land. Hopi, do you want to stay here and read the book? No, you don't want to? Are you tired? I'm tired, Miss Sarah. Oh, okay. Well, we'll let her go take a nap, and we'll read our book together, okay? All right, you want to say goodbye to the children? Bye, kids. Oh, tell her bye. Say goodbye, Hopi. Okay, she's going to go and stay in her room for a little bit. I'm going to read to you today a book that's called Benjamin's Box. Okay, listen carefully. Are you ready? Long ago in a faraway land, there lived a boy named Benjamin. His small home was nestled into a wall of other houses among hidden, narrow back roads in the very busy city of Jerusalem. Benjamin loved Jerusalem because God's temple was there. More than that, Benjamin loved God. His grandfather had taught him many things about God when he was just a tiny boy. Benjamin talked to God a lot. He prayed in the morning and he prayed at night. Benjamin's parents worked very hard making fabric and cloth, but their family was still kind of poor. Benjamin helped out by taking odd jobs around the city. Everybody in Jerusalem knew Benjamin. They could always count on him to be honest and to work hard. One bright spring morning, Benjamin sat outside in the sunshine. In his hand was a wooden box. Do you see the wooden box right there? Hi, Benjamin, called his friend Eli. What's that you've got? It's my treasure box, said Benjamin. My grandfather gave it to me before he died last year. It's very, very special. Eli opened it and he looked in. There's nothing in it except for a piece of straw. How can this be a treasure box? Benjamin shrugged. I don't have any real treasures yet, but my grandfather said the straw came from the bed of a baby who was born in a stable. My grandfather was a shepherd, and he said the baby was going to grow up to be a king. Why would a king be born in a stable with cows and donkeys? Eli laughed, and he closed the box. I heard some sort of a king is coming today. His name is Jesus. Want to come to the city gate and watch for him? Sure. My grandfather took me to hear a man called Jesus once. I liked to listen to him. How about a little surprise for you? Let's see what's in here. It's a donkey. Can you see that? You see the donkey? Crowds were already lining the street. Some people cut palm branches from trees and handed them around. Others laid garments on the street like a carpet. Wow, said Benjamin. He must be a king. The two boys squeezed through just as a donkey entered the gate. That's him, Benjamin pointed out to the man on the donkey. That's Jesus. Hosanna, Hosanna, cheered the crowd as they waved their palm branches in the air. Hail to our new king, yelled an old man beside Benjamin. Why does a king ride a donkey? The old man turned. It means he comes in peace. Jesus has come to set us free. Benjamin looked into Jesus' face as he drew near. Jesus smiled back as if they were friends. The donkey plodded along and Benjamin followed, pushing through the crowd to keep up. At last, he drew close enough to pet the donkey. A small piece of hair came off in his hand. That night, Benjamin placed that bit of donkey fur in his treasure box. Oh, let me show you something. What do you think is in here? Let's see. It's coins. In the next days, Benjamin and Eli went to hear Jesus whenever they could. One day as they waited, Eli whispered, "Somebody has offered money for someone to betray Jesus." "Why?" asked Benjamin. What has he done? He only speaks truth. They should listen to him. The priests are jealous of him. They want Jesus to stop teaching, said Eli. "Someone should warn Jesus," said Benjamin. "I'm not afraid. I'll go." He pushed through the crowd until he reached one of Jesus' friends. He tugged on the man's sleeve. Excuse me, sir. Are you with Jesus?" "Yes, I am," the man answered. "Please, I need to warn Jesus. He's in danger. The priests are offering a bribe to betray him. You must tell..." "Shh," said the man. "Don't repeat this. I'll take care of it." And he slipped a coin into Benjamin's hand. "Thank you, sir. What is your name?" "My name is Judas," he said, and he turned away. That night, Benjamin tucked the shiny coin into his treasure box. What's in here? It's a cup. Can you see it? The next day, Benjamin was asked to help his aunt get ready for some guests that were coming over. They would be coming for Passover dinner. He went right to work carrying water jugs. "Did you hear who the guest of honor is? It's Jesus," said a servant girl. Benjamin's eyes opened wide. Imagine, to serve such an important man, he must work hard to do his very best. Two of Jesus' friends came to help, and Benjamin listened as they talked of Jesus. They loved him so much. Soon Jesus arrived and the supper began. If Benjamin listened carefully, he could hear some of their words. But what did Jesus mean when he said the wine was like his blood and would be spilled and the bread was to be broken like his body? It made no sense. Then Jesus said someone would betray him. Benjamin smiled. He wasn't worried. He knew that Judas would prevent this. After supper, Benjamin found a broken cup. He saved it to remember the night when he served Jesus. Boys and girls, wouldn't you love to serve Jesus something? What's in here? Praying hands. You see? Some praying hands. Later, Jesus and his friends left to pray. Benjamin wanted to pray too. He followed at a distance, watching as they finally stopped in a garden. Benjamin sat beneath an olive tree and broke off a twig. He couldn't hear Jesus, but he knew that he was praying. Benjamin prayed too, and as he prayed, he rubbed the twig between his hands. Before long, his eyelids grew heavy, and soon he fell asleep. Loud yelling startled Benjamin. He leaped up in time to see soldiers taking Jesus away. "Stop," he cried. "You can't take him. He hasn't done anything." "Shh, boy," said one of Jesus' friends, holding Benjamin back. "What's wrong?" demanded Benjamin. "Why are they taking him?" "They want to question him." Benjamin pulled away. "Why didn't you stop them?" But the man just shook his head and walked away. All of Jesus' friends were gone. Benjamin saw the smooth twig in his hand. "Dear God, please take care of my friend Jesus," he prayed as he walked. At home, he placed the broken cup and the twig in his box. What's in here? Let's see. Oh, it's a piece of leather. It's a piece of leather. Benjamin, did you hear the news? Asked Eli the next morning. They've locked Jesus up. Everyone says that Judas got a bunch of money to betray him. Benjamin gasped. He had told Judas about the bribe. Maybe this was his fault. He said goodbye to Eli and wandered through the city. What could he do? Was there any way to help? Sounds of shouting made him stop, and he turned to see an angry crowd. He should be stoned, yelled one person, shaking his fist. What's going on? Did they hurt Jesus? What do you know about this Jesus? Demanded the old man. They all turned and stared at Benjamin with angry eyes. Nothing, he stammered. His gaze dropped to the ground where he noticed a small strip of leather. He picked it up. It was from the whips used by the soldiers. It was wet with blood. He tucked it in his tunic and slipped away. Why would anybody beat Jesus? Let's see what's in here. Oh, it's a crown of thorns. Let me show you. Benjamin continued to walk. If only he could make them release Jesus. But what could a small boy do? He heard loud cries as another crowd gathered at the end of the street. Hail, King of the Jews, yelled a soldier as Benjamin pushed his way past men and women. And there stood Jesus. Benjamin looked into Jesus' eyes as Roman soldiers threw a shabby robe over his beaten back. He expected to see hatred, but instead he saw only love. Just then a soldier shoved a crown of thorns onto Jesus' head, and another hit him with a stick. Oh, Benjamin's eyes filled with tears. Why were they doing this? A few days ago, everyone had called Jesus a king when he entered Jerusalem. Now it seemed they all hated him. Benjamin squatted down and buried his head in his hands. Please, God, he prayed over and over, please make them stop. When he finally opened his eyes, the crowd had moved along. Jesus was gone. He walked over to where they had scorned his friend and picked up a sharp thorn broken from the awful crown. He ran home. His parents paused to hear his story and sadly shook their heads. They returned to their work, and Benjamin placed the thorn and leather strip in his box, and he cried. Let's see what's in here. Stay with me, boys and girls. Stay with me. This is a nail. Benjamin, called Eli, have you heard? Jesus is to be crucified. No, cried Benjamin, he has done nothing to deserve that. Eli frowned. My father says that only the worst criminals are to be put to death on a cross. Benjamin went inside and sat in a dark corner of his house. He did not want to talk or even think about this sad news, but in his mind, he could see the evil men hurting Jesus. I must go, he finally said aloud. If this is partly my fault, I can at least be there. I can pray for him. Where are we going? Asked his mother as he opened the door. To help a friend, he said. She nodded and touched his cheek. As Benjamin climbed the hill, he found a large spike. It was like those used by Romans to nail criminals to the cross. He tucked it in his tunic and he continued on. 3 crosses stood at the top, but he could not force his eyes to look upon his friend. He noticed a small group of people apart from the larger crowd. He knew they were Jesus' dearest friends. He sat near them and bowed to pray, but the only words that came were, Dear God, I am so, so sorry. Let's see what this is in these 2 eggs. That's a spear. That is 1 die It's used to play games usually. Benjamin watched as soldiers gambled for Jesus' clothes. He tried to shut their ears to their cruel remarks. Finally, he forced himself to look up. Benjamin looked into Jesus' eyes, and he saw such sorrow and pain. It really hurt his heart, but he also saw love. And like before, Jesus looked right at Benjamin. Surely this was his way of saying all would be well. Perhaps he would even do a miracle. But instead, the sky turned dark. Jesus cried out, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." The ground shook and Jesus breathed his last breath. Benjamin was stunned. Jesus was dead. As if in a dream, Benjamin heard the people move about. He saw a soldier pierce his friend's side with a spear. People hurried to take down crosses and bodies before the Sabbath. Soon they were gone, and he was alone. He picked up a stone the soldiers had gambled with and looked at the dark sky. Why had God allowed it? Later that night, he opened this treasure box and placed the nail and the gambling stone inside. He looked at his collection. It had seemed so valuable when he believed that Jesus was the king, but now the strange items only filled him with such sadness. It's a cloth. Do you see it? It's a cloth. Benjamin called Eli the next morning. "Come hear the news." Benjamin stuck his head out of the window and rubbed his sleepy eyes. They posted guards at Jesus' tombs. Some say that Jesus will return to life. Benjamin perked up. "My grandfather told me that Jesus brought some people back from the dead." "Maybe it will happen again," said Eli. "But the soldiers say they're making sure some people don't steal the body." Quickly, Benjamin dressed and raced to the tomb. Could it be? Could Jesus have returned to life? How he hoped so. But the large stone remained in place, and the guards blocked the tomb. With dark, scowling faces, they told him to leave at once. As Benjamin walked slowly down the hill, he noticed a bit of white cloth hanging from a small branch. He plucked it off and rubbed it between his fingers. His parents wove cloth like that for burials. Jesus is dead, he told himself as he continued toward home. That night, he sadly placed the cloth in his box. This would surely be the last thing to remember. He tried to pray, but no words came. He wondered, is God listening to me? Oh, it's a stone, a big stone. Early the next morning, Benjamin went to the market for his mother. He used to enjoy crowds in the city, but now they only reminded him of how everyone had turned up against Jesus. He shuffled along without looking up. "It's a miracle!" shrieked a girl. Benjamin stopped in his tracks and listened. "Jesus has risen from the dead! The stone's been moved!" Benjamin turned and ran from the market and ran up toward the tomb. Could it possibly be true? Could Jesus have risen from the grave? In his heart, he believed it could be. It must be. He ran even faster. Sure enough, the stone was rolled away. He fell to his knees and thanked God. When he stood, he picked up a sharp piece of broken rock. It must have crumbled from the huge stone. With a joyful heart, he marched back down to town. Jesus was alive. In the market, he met a woman who was a friend of Jesus. "I know the good news. Jesus is alive." "Yes," she smiled. "It's as the prophet said, on the third day he'll rise. Some of us have even already seen him." Benjamin ran home and told his parents. He placed the stone in the box. What a treasure he had now. There's nothing in this one. It's empty. During the next few days, Benjamin and Eli listened as the disciples shared about how Jesus had appeared to them in various places. Jesus said that all this came to pass just so forgiveness could be preached to all nations, beginning right here in Jerusalem. He said that since we saw all these things, now we can go out and tell others the good news of his forgiveness. Benjamin smiled, and now he understood that Jesus had forgiven him too, and he wanted to share the good news. He ran home and got his treasure box and went out into the streets and gathered all of his friends. Inside this box, he explained, is a great treasure. The children drew closer and closer and listened with excitement. One by one, Benjamin took out each item. He explained how he got it and what it all meant. And so you see, he said, as he closed the box and looked into their faces, this treasure is really Jesus. Because of what Jesus did on the cross, we can all be forgiven by God the Father. They all cheered and asked him to tell the story again and again. That night, Benjamin opened his box one more time before he went to bed. He looked at each item and he touched them all with love and care. And he placed the last one back in the box. Thank you, dear God, for letting me find all these special treasures. But most of all, I thank you for sending the greatest treasure of all. Thank you for sending Jesus, and help me to be a good servant for Jesus. Help me to tell everyone I know about the good news. So boys and girls, you can do the same thing. Right now, you can talk to all your family members and you can tell them, do you have a little box around your house that you could put some things in that would help you tell others the true story about Jesus? Until next week, know that I love you. And we're looking forward to seeing you back in Bible Land as soon as we can.